Hi, this is tutorial 6 of getting started with Entity Framework 6 code first using MVC5. So tutorial 6 covers a more complex data model. My name's Sheila.
And I'm April.
In our presentation today, we are going to create a more complex data model through customizing specific attributes, creating new entities on the fly, modifying our existing entities. We're going to seed the database and then migrate and update the database from our model. Customizing the data model. We do this using attributes to specify formatting, validation, database mapping rules. And then we create new entities to complete the school data model by adding attributes to existing classes and creating some new classes. Our current model, our existing database, has a student table, an enrollment table, and a course table. To those tables, we're going to add an instructor, a department, and an office assignment. To start off with, let's modify or add a DataType attribute. We're going to go to the students class, add a using statement at the top, letting it know we're going to use data annotations, and then we're going to add a DataType and display format code to the enrollment date. By default, the data field is displayed according to the default formats based on the server's culture info. The data type enum includes data types such as currency, date, email addresses, etc. The data type that we're going to use today is date, and this is going to be used to specify the date format that we want. So we have two lines of code that we're entering here. One is the data type and the other is the format. And as you can see, our format comes in year, month, date order. Next, we're going to set the string length attribute. The string length attribute sets the maximum length in the database. It provides validation on the client side along with the server side. So above our last name, we are going to add a string length of 50. And also above first mid name, we're going to add a string length of 50. And along with that one, there's going to be an error message included that will say first name cannot be longer than 50 characters. This attribute will not prevent a user from entering white space when typing in their name. For that, you'd have to use some sort of regular expression. So we have made some changes to our database. Now it requires us to use migrations to update our schema. So we can update this schema without losing any data. In our Package Manager console, which is located on your Tools menu, you need to type in the following code. Add migration, max length on names, and then once that's done running, you type in update database. The add migration command creates a file named timestamp _ max length on names.cs. That contains code in an up method that will update the existing database model to the one we have created. Next, let's modify the column attribute. You can use this attribute to help control how classes and properties are mapped to the database. So in our student class, let's add column first name above the public string first mid name. The column attribute specifies that the first mid name property will be renamed first name. In other words, when your code refers to student.firstMidName, The data will come from or be updated in the first name column of the student table.
And kind of the reason we did this is because it's more common for first name to be a column name in a table than first mid name. So someone querying the database would have a much easier time if we rename it this.
So we've made some changes. Now we're going to need to apply these to our database. In the package manager again, add migration, column first name, and after that's done running, you can update the database. If you want to see the change that's been made, you can open your Server Explorer, and the attribute first mid name should now be first name. So let's complete some more changes in this model. In our students class, we are going to replace the existing code to show additional attribute modifications that can be made. We are adding required to the last name and first name. This requires that an ID be entered, and we are changing the display name for the first mid name and for enrollment date, so it's just more readable on the screen.
Yeah, we're just adding spaces between the words, so it looks a whole lot better.
You'll also notice at the bottom that we added a method that would concatenate the first name and last name to give us their full name. So we've finished modifying our attributes. Now we're going to move on to creating our classes. First, we're going to add the instructors. And we're just going to take some code and replace the code with what we have.
We can see that they put all of their attributes on different lines, but it should be noted that we could put it all on the same line, just between one set of square brackets and separate it by commas.
At the bottom, you'll notice there are some navigation properties.
We have a collection of courses because an instructor can teach many courses, but we only have a single office assignment object because an instructor can either have 1 or 0 offices, but not many.
Next, we're going to create the office assignment entity. Go to your models and create a new class called Office Assignment. Copy the code and replace it in your file.
Something to notice here is that the instructor ID is the foreign key and the primary key. It would notice that instructor ID is a foreign key automatically, but we do need to specify that it's also the primary key.
Now build the project. We're going to continue to do this same thing with courses.
Here we added attributes to each of the fields, and then at the bottom we can notice that we have one department, many enrollments, and many instructors, because a course can have each of those things.
Next, let's create a new model called Department.
Some things to note here are that our budget column is going to be of type money, so it's a little more specific than just decimal. And then at the bottom we have an administrator, which is of type instructor. A department could or could not have an administrator. And then we have a collection of courses that are in that department.
Let's modify the enrollment entity. Then we customize our data model by adding the entities to the SchoolContext class. Now that we've created them, let's add them so that they can be found. And then we're going to add the SchoolContext information to the DAL file. Let's create a seed to seed the database. In the Migrations folder, open your Configurations class. Copy the seed and replace the code into your file. With all these changes, let's go ahead and go back to the package manager and add migration complex data model.
Before we can update the database, we need to go and modify the code that's in that migration file. Before this, courses didn't have a department, but now it does, and it's non-nullable. We need to create a dummy department and assign that department to the courses that are already in the database so it doesn't break.
After this editing, open your package manager console and type in update database. If you'd like to see the changes that have been made to your database, open your Server Explorer and see the list of tables that are now represented in your database. You will see Instructor, Office Assignment, and Department added along with a couple other shared tables.
And that concludes our demo for Tutorial 6. Thanks for watching!